Hey Mythic crew, what's up everyone? Welcome to the very first podcast of Grease and Gasoline, the podcast where we rev up your passion for cars and take you on a ride through the fascinating world of automobiles. I'm Seth, your host, your guide, and your fellow car enthusiast. Whether you're a seasoned mechanic, a weekend warrior, or just someone who loves the thrill of the open road, this is going to be the podcast for you. So let me start by telling you a little bit about myself. I've been obsessed with cars as long as I can remember. My journey started when I was a kid. I'd help my grandpa in the garage and I'd run out there and I'd ask for garage candy, or that is what we called it. It was actually Andy's mints, or those little thin mints, and I would always run out there looking for some of those. He liked to work on lawnmowers out in the garage, his John Deeres that he would always be fixing, and he had an old 86 Corvette that I would love to go ride around in, and that is kind of what started my passion into cars as a child. I would sit on my knees because we didn't have a car seat back then, and then he would go for a drive with me up and down the block, do a burnout right out the driveway, and I just loved it. I think one of my main experiences that I remember that was funny and a good time was that I had this little plastic red Jeep, one of those ones with the battery pack on it. Well, he put a car battery in it so it had way more power, so it would pop a wheelie when I floored it, and I just loved that. But when it rained, I would go outside, I would get the Jeep, I would take it out in the rain, and I would just beg him to come outside with me. Grandpa would come outside, kick the back of the Jeep, make me drift in circles, and I would just scream with joy, slide around. It was a great time. Go on from there, and I just grew up around him owning an engine rebuilding shop, so I would always be there and see how that was done and be part of that process. It always got me curious and made me love cars and mechanical experiences even more, and just being a part of that. When it came up to high school, I jumped into the shop and I started working there full time. I did that for around 5 years. Reconditioned the rods, I honed blocks, disassembled the engines, reassembled the engines. I did blueprinting and balancing. All this was right out of high school. And that's when I really fell in love with cars. So me and my friends started a car club in my hometown in Minnesota. We called it Pushin' Pistons. I remember our first meet was like 4 people. We actually saw 2 cool cars. We were in my buddy's mom's Camry, and we saw a Honda Civic, and we just followed it around town trying to get a hold of the person or wait for them to stop so we could talk to them. And we followed it all the way from our town to over the bridge to the next one, and they finally stopped, so we got out and we said, hey, we like your car, we really want you to join our car club here and just be a part of something. So that's how I made one of my really good friends, Brownie, and he then came along and started going to the original meets, and we just started to build this whole community of people and things, and just like it's grown since then. It's become around 2,500 people, I think, as of a couple years ago, the last time I checked. And we have meets every summer, at the beginning, at the end, all throughout. We have food trucks and vendors that come, and it's just been a really great time in my hometown. I hope that I can continue that sort of stuff now that I have moved away and I am in Arizona. I want to bring my friends down and start a few meets with them and just like hang out. I've always been passionate more about like the Japanese type of cars. 300ZX has always been what I am known for, because I got one when I was like 16. I was 17 when I got it. I waited and waited. I looked on Craigslist, which is where we used to buy cars, all year long. I just constantly looked. I was trying to find any sort of sports car, something with a 5-speed and just something that I could have fun with in the summer. because I was just obsessed. And I remember all of my friends telling me, you're never going to find a 300ZX. We don't see them. They're just not there, or they're falling apart. They're broken. It's just not going to happen. Get something else. And I just kept looking and looking to try to find something within my price range. And I finally found this car. It was white, and the spoiler was falling off the back. It had all of this like dirt on it, and it just looked really bad on the back of the hatch. But when we got there, the car ran great. And I remember my grandpa telling me, don't get it, it doesn't look good. And then I remember test driving it, and I absolutely fell in love. I needed this car. So I didn't listen. I bought the car. I drove it home. And then I remember the next day when I'm giving my buddy Alex a ride in the car, we actually get pulled over when I'm dropping him off to his house. And I was just, I had everything. We weren't speeding. We were going slow down a street. And I remember thinking, like, why did we get pulled over? What happened? Well, the cop actually came up and he's like, wow, I never see these. I really love your car. This thing's awesome. So it was just like a real boost for all that work that I put in to try to get that. And over the next half a year, I drove that car every day that I could. I dailied it. I put an HKS exhaust on it, which was one of my first mods to a car. It looked great. I had to get a new front bumper that me and my buddy Alex actually painted in my garage at home. We spray painted it with white spray paint, but it actually matched the car and looked pretty decent. For what we were doing at the time. And then I fixed the hatch myself and painted that, and that was kind of my first experience into bodywork. It was just a really fun time. It looked halfway decent in the end. I was really proud of the car. I drove it around. Started to have some issues where the idle would stumble. It would fall up and down. The car still ran great, and I got to and from everywhere I needed to go with that, but I never actually solved the problem on that car about the rough idle. Later on down the road, when I turned, I think it was when I was 18, I could have been 19, I ended up going for the twin turbo 300ZX. I went down with my buddy Alex again. I had gotten a car loan and I bought one of those. It was just the perfect example. It had 50,000 miles on it. It had just everything that I wanted, full service records. It was second owner, and I was now the third owner of this car. So I drove it home, and then I had him hop in the white 300 and me in my black twin turbo, and we went cruising around the town together in the both of them, and it's just like a memory that I'll never forget. That car I still have to this day. I have modified just about everything on that car. I've taken out the engine, I've taken out all suspension, I've taken out the full interior. Just about every piece of that car I've touched, every nut and bolt. I have a tattoo of it on my arm, in fact, because of that. It's just like about the memories for me and the times that I've shared with my friends and being in the garage and being young, and that car has had all of those experiences with me. I took that car to college with me when I went to school to learn auto body, and I got my iCar certificate. I took it all apart and I painted it in the Skyline blue, which was the color that I always wanted it to be. The Bayside blue from Nissan was always my favorite color, and it was the color that 300ZXs did not come in, but it was still the same as that era, which is exactly what I wanted. So now the car is Bayside blue, and I couldn't be happier. We've put bigger turbos on it, bigger injectors. I got the plenum powder coated. I've done all of the deletes. I've tucked the wires. It's been a passion project of mine since I was young, and I'll never get rid of it. It just hit 100,000 miles, and it's something that brings my life so much joy. Along the way, I've had many other cars, from Mitsubishi Eclipses, a few different ones from first gens, second gens. I have a second gen right now. I've had a 350Z drift car. Gosh, just a lot. And I've helped my friends work on all different varieties of cars. From one of my buddies, Carlos, has had a bunch of Evo 8s. He's a really big Subaru guy with the WRX STIs. I've had a Bug-Eye WRX myself, which I really enjoyed. I drove that through a winter in Minnesota. I'll just never forget all these memories with cars, and that's why I enjoy them and why I'm starting this channel, for all of us to talk together. I'm going to find some guests to come on with me, and we'll just discuss cars, discuss our passion, and which ones that we love and why. So that's just a little bit of a start of my story. There's so much more I could tell you, but yeah, thanks for listening. If you did, this podcast number 1. Let's stay tuned for more.